Welcome back. Every once in a while you've seen something that you really want to buy, but the issue is that it is a little bit over your budget. Or maybe you want it, but you know that you're not gonna use it so much, so you kind of having issues with yourself to motivate the price. But sometimes there's a cheaper option popping up. And we all know that quite often when it comes to cheaper option, there is a compromise somewhere. It is the classical triangle where you have cheap and good in two corners. And in the top, I guess you have functions. And generally, there's a saying, pick two. If it have a lot of function and it's cheap, it's generally not so good. If it's cheap and good, it doesn't have so much functions. But what if it's good and have a lot of functions? It's generally not cheap. That kind of thinking goes into a lot of different areas of stuffs. So we all know that Easyrigs are quite nice to have, especially if you're gonna like walking around with a rig like this. This is my Panasonic S5 rig, and on the other side we have a Blackmagic Cinema Pocket 6K rig. They are quite heavy, and walking around and filming with this for one day could be a little bit hard. There is a very nice solution though. Easyrig. It makes your life easy. The issue though is that Easyrigs are not the cheapest thing. There is, however, the new Easyrig Minimax, which is a smaller but a very good thing. But there, down again, we comes back to the price. It's not the cheapest one, but it is kind of good way in between. But I would say the Easyrig Minimax is still somewhat like a premium product. We know it's good and it has the functions, but it's not the cheapest one, so it's not cheap. But here in this bag I have something that is ridiculously cheap. It is a copy of a what I would say Easyrig. Easyrig was one of the first, if not the first, to make this kind of thing. And at the moment there's some other options that are generally cheaper, but there is a compromise somewhere. But when I saw this one for $170 US, I just have to click it home. I have to order it. I saw it on eBay, and this is something that I've been wanting to have for a really long time. I use it quite often in my professional work when I'm doing work, but I have been wanting to have this at home as well, but I don't use it so often. So I had a little bit issue to motivate like 8,000 crowns or like $800 US for an Easyrig. But now recently when I bought this little beast, my Panasonic S5 rig, I kind of felt like, okay, it's time to get something that is taking the weight off of my shoulders. So I naturally had a look on Easyrig, but it was that price. Let's open up this and see what we're getting. First of all, the bag and the format, it's small. It's very small. I tried some other rigs and they are like huge in comparison. Bigger sizes generally means more paddings, more support. So there's the first compromise. It supports you the same way as the bigger ones. However, this one is made for a smaller rig. I think the weight that I were looking at was between 3 to 8 kilos. So it is naturally a small one. So you have to keep that in mind. The vest itself falls down and you are attaching the arm over here, and you have two M6 screws that you just screw in here to keep the arm secure. This is pretty nice because that means you could lift it up in the arm. I had some other rigs that doesn't has this function where you actually mounting the arm solid onto the vest. That means you can't lift it up. Overall, it is a little bit shaky. It's not as solid and refined as many other rigs that has a higher price, but $170. Keep that in mind. When this one is attached, you clearly feel a difference compared to the Easyrig and the more expensive options. But I would say that this is good enough. Well, depends a little bit, of course. If you would run around for a full day, I would prefer the Easyrig without any doubt. It is better, it has better support, it has better build quality. But we have that triangle again to keep in mind. So, things I noticed is that it is a little bit compact. So maybe if you are a longer person, you might have some issues with this. But let's start with the Blackmagic pocket setup that we have. This is a little bit a setup that is a little bit on the heavier side. Considering that I don't know the weight in my head, that will be revealed in the editing. First of all, there's a small spring that holds the clamp in place, and you could also tighten it down. So it fits, it's pretty secured when it is in here. Depending on what setup you're running, it can't be too long, because if you're gonna stand like this, you need some space. So keep that in mind, that the arm is not the longest, and generally if you're having stuffs in the back, you need to make it tighter, or you need to find other ways of shooting with this. If I will rest it on the shoulder, however, that changes something. Because in this way, it is much better. And it takes off all the weight from it. But I would definitely recommend you, if you're gonna have a bigger rig like this, where you have batteries, where you have a monitor, and where the lenses are heavier, and well, when the weight comes up, then I would recommend you just to go for the bigger one. However, my own camera, my private camera, is slightly lighter. And it's also built a little bit different, because I can actually moving these parts in the back, my shoulder strap and my power bank for the focus motor. I can move that away a little bit. So with that moved away, I have better space to work around. So if you compare shooting like this to shooting fully handheld, this is by no doubt better. If you have a good in-body camera stabilization, you could get really stable shots with this camera. Just look at this example here. But even without any stabilization, it's pretty solid. There is, however, some small micro vibrations. It is, after all, handheld, so you keep that in mind. But as soon as you turn on some sort of stabilization, the result you can achieve with this is quite amazing. What is the purpose with this kind of rig? Well, it is mainly to take off some of that burden that you normally have when you're holding the camera and you're walking around and shooting, and also to stabilize it. The main stabilization you get from this is when you're shooting non-moving shots. It is not very optimal for moving around, even if it could do that pretty well. There is some things that you could add on this one. Some of them have an extra arm that goes up in the top that are like having a spring, which is better for walking because it will take away this movement that goes up and down and act as a suspension for the camera. These ones are also really nice if you're running around with a gimbal, to put the gimbal in it and have it taking off the weight. With a gimbal you could actually get pretty nice shots, but you still have to do that ninja. You still have to hold the gimbal while walking, because otherwise you're gonna get a lot of movement in the Z axle. After we have been just like try this out a little bit, felt it, I could feel that it put some pressures on my lower back. I think that comes down to adjustment to some degree, but I also think it is a little bit because of the construction. The more expensive one has a better support, because now I am pretty tight, and I think that's where you have to go. You really have to tighten this in order to get the weight on your hips. I could also feel like it is a little bit compact. I wish I had some more space, but it is in some situations a better option than holding the camera by hand. And I definitely feel that for the price of $170 US, it's a no-brainer in some ways. If you have been considering to getting something like this, but the price have been your issue, I would say you could go for it. You won't regret yourself. Don't expect it to be a premium product. It's gonna be good enough. Well, that's just it. It's gonna be good enough, but it's not a professional product. It's not as refined as the more expensive options, but well, for the price, it is what it is. There is a possibility to adjust the arm where it goes down. At the moment I have it fully extended. I don't think I'm ever gonna pull it further back because I would want to have it further away from me, but we can't get everything. It goes pretty far down. I think this is some way the bottom, so pretty nice for getting some lower angles as well. If you are using this one together with a skateboard or a Segway or something like that, you could get some pretty stable shots, especially if you're going adding some more money and putting that arm on the top. So if you like this kind of content and you want to see more camera related stuff, click over here to subscribe and click down here to see a full playlist with more camera related stuff. Thanks for watching, and I see you later. Ow.